In October of 2018, the following ad would be posted to a site on the dark web reading, "I'd like to try necrophilia and cannibalism and see how it feels to take a life. If you'd be willing to let me kill you, are in the US and can travel by car, contact me." The post would be made by Alexander Nathan Barter, a Texas native. After Barter published the ad, it wouldn't be long before an undercover agent saw it and responded, using the persona of a father with a 13-year-old daughter. In the messages, the father agrees to let his daughter be Barter's victim. In the messages exchanged between the two, Barter expressed interest on multiple occasions in killing and eating the 13-year-old. Between October 9th and 19th of 2018, the undercover agent and Barter made plans to travel from Florida to Barter's residence in Shelby County, Texas. During this time, Barter made it a point to go over how the two were to conceal evidence of the crime. When arriving at the designated meeting site, it was revealed that Barter was carrying with him a knife, trash bag, cell phone, and a tablet. He would be arrested at this time. The agent responsible for speaking with Barter is Mark Dawson, who states that in his 23 years in law enforcement, Barter's crime is one of the most depraved and appalling. Barter would later go on to be known as the Dark Web Cannibal and would receive a 40-year sentencing followed by a lifetime of supervised release. Barter's case, though strange and unusual, is actually just the tip of an iceberg when it comes to advertisements found on the dark web. When you think of the dark web, you probably think of dark computer screens with cryptic fonts, maybe even someone sitting in front of a computer monitor in a mask like Anonymous or something similar. The fact of the matter is, the dark web is a hidden part of the internet where users can operate anonymously. This makes tracking much more difficult, as users cannot access this part of the internet with standard search engines like Safari or Google Chrome. When you use engines like this, there are three parties that are aware of your presence: you, the owner of the site, and any authorities who are curious enough to know. With the dark web, anonymity erases two of these parties, leaving only you when said and done. So what do people operating on the dark web have to hide? The answer isn't definitive. Surfing the dark web is very similar to using the normal or clear web. It's not like you boot up the search engine and see illegal content right off the bat. You just might be browsing and stumble upon content that hasn't been censored or regulated as usual. Take, for example, something like Facebook Marketplace. It's part of a domain that is heavily regulated. You can't make a post offering to sell your kidneys because you'd be violating the site's guidelines. On the dark web, there are no guidelines. This is how someone like Alexander Nathan Barter was able to create such a depraved post with no digital ramifications, no flagging, no banning, nothing. As such, this freedom has opened the floodgates for many people wishing to do deviant things anonymously. Just a quick side note, when I'm doing research for videos like this, I visit a lot of different websites. I just got a notification the other day actually that in the last 7 days, Safari has prevented 72 trackers from profiling me. I realize that I'm sort of looking for trouble with the kind of work that I do, but what a lot of people don't know is that even if you're just a casual internet user, your information is just as unsafe. And frankly, the idea of someone getting a hold of my personal information scares me. You know, my bank account, my credit card, my social security, anything like that. So that's why I started using today's sponsor, Aura, as a means of protection. Aura monitors things like the dark web and will alert me if any of my personal information is leaked. They also provide up to $5 million in identity theft insurance in case something really bad were to happen. Aura also identifies data brokers who sell your information and immediately submits an opt-out request on your behalf. Not to mention, they also have other features like a military-grade VPN to offer you even more protection. If you want to sleep better at night knowing that your information is secure, you can visit the link in the description below. That's www.aura.com/something sinister and try the first 14 days absolutely free. And thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring this video. In 2009, an advertisement was made on the dark web from a user going by the name Evil Mind. The ad itself was asking for ideas on how the poster could abuse their daughter. The avatar that Evil Mind was using showed a small child estimated to be between the ages of 5 and 7. This post would be found by police investigators who were tasked with identifying the daughter in question. Unbeknownst to the investigators and law enforcement, this was only the beginning. This user, Evil Mind, went under a number of different aliases, including 666 Devil. The user would often seek out ads posted by young people looking for jobs like dog walking or babysitting. The user would reach out via direct message and inquire about the jobs before redirecting the conversation into darker territory. The dark web user would then ask these individuals for photos of themselves, to which they would more often than not block the user. It was at this point where Evil Mind, or 666 Devil, decided to switch up their approach. In 2009, a new post would be made under the guise that the user was a depressed female artist named Liz, who was looking for someone to do nude drawings of. Once they had these images, the user would use them as blackmail against the sender, threatening to send the explicit photos to friends and relatives if they did not do exactly what the user said. "I'm not Liz, this poor depressed female. I'm your worst nightmare. I'm going to destroy you unless you do what I say. You can do two things. You can either send me more images that I asked for, or I will send these to your family, to your friends, to your school. I'm sure you won't want that. If you don't do this in 48 hours, I'll send them anyways." Despite the victim's compliance, the user would often leak the photos anyways. One of these victims was just 14 years old at the time. This led to suicide attempts in at least 4 of the people who shared their photos with the user. Police investigators would soon identify the user as 28-year-old college student Matthew Falder. At the time, Falder had no criminal record. If his actions weren't appalling enough already, Falder would sometimes post the photos to hardcore websites. Sites like these usually contain CP and involve pain and torture. During these conversations with his victims, he reportedly took joy in manipulating the person he was talking to. He typically targeted younger people, as they were more naive and vulnerable to coercion. His blackmail tactics involved making people eat feces, licking toilets, and persuading people to eat dog food. Upon his arrest, the investigators on the case described Falder as one of the most prolific and depraved offenders that they had ever encountered. The case of Barter and Falder showcased just how depraved a single person on the dark web can be. But what if I told you that there are entire businesses being run, businesses that seek to exploit a larger number of the population? The following screenshot was captured by Michael Falls, a data collector and technology developer who works closely with the Anti-Human Trafficking Intelligence Initiative. As you can tell from the headline, the individual posting this advertisement is attempting to start a human trafficking business. It's sort of one of the cliches when talking about the dark web, organs being sold on the black market. But it is in fact real, with an estimated 10,000 illegal transplants per year. The screenshot you just saw is where things like this begin. One of the most popular forms of organ selling is a term known as transplant tourism, which refers to individuals who travel abroad to more easily obtain organs for transplant. These people often visit poor countries where individuals are more likely to sell their body parts in exchange for money. In research that was conducted by the World Health Organization, an ad for a human heart or liver can run between $100,000 to $200,000, while a functioning set of eyes costs closer to $1,200. These are the sort of things that you'd expect to find when looking through an organ catalog. But perhaps one of the most disturbing details is that the market for illicit body parts is much bigger than for necessary organs for transplants. When I say illicit body parts, I mean non-transplantable things like hands, feet, arms, and not to mention, most of these are being sold for a whopping $500 each. What would someone need a pair of severed hands or feet for? And why do these sales overshadow sales for necessary body parts? The answer isn't conclusive. There is a small market of people who collect things like human skulls to decorate or paint, but I can't imagine the same can be said for a hand or a foot. And it doesn't stop at mere body parts. The dark web offers a number of services for those interested in making an entire person disappear. This is probably one of the more well-known advertisements for assassinations on the dark web. The image comes from a famous New York Times article. In the screenshot, we are introduced to the Slayer's Hitmen, an organization offering a variety of different macabre services, including crippling, torture, beatings, and much more. As the text states above, the hitmen are willing to travel and operate under strict contractual terms. Another group offering their services are the 18th Street Gang, which advertise themselves as hitmen for hire. Their operations are very similar to the Slayer's Hitmen. As the About section reads, they employ a large number of people to do all kinds of illegal work, ranging from scaring people, beating them up, and even killing them. This would be the unfortunate fate of Amy Allwine. Amy and her husband, Stephen, led a relatively quiet life until May 2016, when the FBI reached out to Amy and told her that someone was trying to kill her. This evidence was found from a string of emails that the FBI received from an anonymous source on the dark web. A user going under the name Dog Day God had paid someone from the Besa Mafia to kill Amy. During this time, investigators had found an interesting digital trail on all of the Allwine's electronic devices, which led them to discover that the perpetrator was in fact Amy's husband, Stephen. This came as a shock, as Stephen and Amy were very religious, with Stephen even being a deacon at their church. This discovery of what Stephen had done would not come soon enough, however. The following 911 call was made on November 13th, 2016.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
I think my wife shot herself. There's blood all over.
Shot herself with a gun?
It looks like it.
Does she still have a weapon?
I don't know. We just got
Where did she shoot herself?
I don't know. I just saw her in blood. I can't tell where she shot. I don't know.
Following the phone call, police would be dispatched to the Allwine residence, where it became very apparent to forensic investigators that Amy's death was not a result of suicide. After seizing all devices in the Allwine household, police would discover enough evidence to incriminate Stephen. It turns out that Stephen was having an affair, and given he and Amy's religious background, divorce would have affected his standing within the church. He figured the only way to break free from Amy was to end her life. Fortunately, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. The stories talked about in this video only begin to scratch the surface, one of the most unsettling aspects being that the dark web is virtually accessible to anyone who wishes to seek it out. The most common browsers used for dark web searches being Amia or Torch. Of course, not everyone who uses browsers like these is doing so with malicious intent, but may very well be surfing close to the underbelly of something sinister.